Hey, Mark here. So today I wanted to talk to you about taking lunar images. I've been doing astrophotography for about, like, more serious astrophotography for about a year now. And one of the first target I went on is the moon because it's big, it's right there, and you can take pictures of it with basically any setup, right? So I just wanted to do an overview of the different methods you can use to image the moon. Um, so first, let's go with the different examples of what you can achieve with different setup. Ideally, you'd want to use good old DSLR like that, with a focal length of I'd say a minimum of 250 millimeter, but as longer as you can get, the better it is. And you'll have to go in manual mode because the moon is so bright it's just going to be a white bulb if you go with the automatic settings. So I'm gonna switch. And another thing, sorry, that I forgot to mention that is really helpful is to have an intervalometer. So just to recap, so you have a camera and an intervalometer like that. So basically what this does is it plugs in the side of the camera right here. You have a little port, and actually that's not the good one, it's this one right here, sorry. And this will allow you to control the camera from the little handset. So you basically say take X amount of pictures of X amount of exposure, and what you want to do as much as possible is take as many pictures as you possible and stack them together. So this will enhance the dynamic range. So after that, you'll be able to pull out more details in post editing. So I'll go ahead and show you some examples with different setups. So the basic one, the first one I've tried was with a telescope actually. So I bought an eyepiece projection kit and I used that Canon T3i camera that I showed you on with a Nexstar 130 SLT, which is 650 millimeter of focal length. Um, and as you can see, there's a lot of chromatic aberration around it, that blue hue type of thing. So it's not ideal, but it's a good starting point if you already have a telescope, that is. The other option is to go with, uh, sorry, a DSLR. So uh, right here. So that's with standard DSLR. With I bought the lens, the EFS 55 to 15 millimeter, and that was just a single shot. I would say go around uh, 160 millisecond of exposure at ISO, let's say around 200 or 400. Try around that, and you'll see details in the moon. So what I did for this shot, I just used a cheap tripod that I bought, and I set the intervalometer to take as many pictures as possible. And every couple of minutes, I was recentering the moon because of Earth's rotation. Like, the moon moves pretty fast, and the more zoom lens you use, the faster it goes. So I just recentered it every once in a while, and after that, I just stacked the frames that I got using a software called Registax 6, which I'm going to show you a quick demo at the end of that presentation. Um, so this is one single frame, and this is 255 frames stacked one on top of each other. So now that I look at that, I've done that a while back. It's a bit over processed, but like it's really fun to see that first result of like detailed moon. Um, so again, I'm just gonna show you this here. Gonna go like that. Um, so you can really see a big difference between one frame and 255. Uh, so I'm just gonna go to the next step. Again, was the eyepiece projection kit. Um, and then it was using it's using again the without the eyepiece projection kit. The other option is, so basically what you want to do is find a way to get your DSLR on a telescope if you already have one. Again, so this is with the Celestron Nexstar 130 SLT. It's a Newtonian scope, and it's not made for astrophotography, but with some little pieces of equipment, you can actually make it work. So it's good for planetary imaging, but it's not good for deep sky objects, nebula, stuff like that, because the mount itself that goes with that scope when you buy the kit, it's an alt azimuth mount, and that's not good at all for astrophotography. Um, so I'm just gonna show you the T-ring adapter that I use to hook that camera on the actual telescope. 1 second. So just need to go back here. All right, I'm gonna remove that. Okay, so that's the T-ring adapter here that goes in the camera. So basically, you use it like you would use on the lens, basically. So you plug that in. Whoop, not in the right place. Here you go. So that goes right in the telescope like that. Uh, Thing is, with that telescope and a lot of like entry-level telescope, they're not made for photography, so you won't be able to reach focus. So what you can use is a Barlow lens like that. This doubles the magnification basically of your lens. Um, there's 2x, 3x. Uh, this one is a 2x, and you can actually unscrew that little zoom lens here and screw it at the end like that. Because usually when you cannot reach focus is because when you put the camera in the telescope, this part here doesn't reach deep enough into the focuser, and the light the focal point is not reached. So this allows you to reach the focal point, and it's gonna double the magnification. Drawback is it's gonna be more blurry a little bit, but for the moon it's perfect. So I'm just gonna go back to the examples. So this was during the last lunar eclipse. I think it was in 2015. So in this case, I had to take two shots for every moonshot that you see there and stitch them together. I'm again, like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a bit lazy, so I use the Microsoft Ice. It's a free software from Microsoft, and it allows you to stitch images together. So it basically detects it for you, and it's gonna do the mosaic for you. I would have loved to get the 100% eclipse, but the clouds rolled in and I could not get the rest of it. But I'm pretty happy I got these details. And again, with the same setup, got more experience. And this year, here's the shots that I did. Again, this is the same setup, a different camera. Actually, that camera is a grade under, but again, the more frames that you get, the more dynamic range that you get, and you can start to see the mineral colors of the moon if you go in Photoshop after that and increase the saturation. Um, Again, I'm gonna go through that quickly at the end of the video. Um, so the other thing you can do as well, once you start having a library of moon images, is start to combine them to create HDR versions to make the part in the shadow kind of appear. So like this here. So that was taken in last September. It was the full moon and I think the waxing gibbous. And I combined the two images. One interesting thing that I found out, I thought that I would be able to really superpose the two moons together and it would be pretty straightforward, but there's actually a phenomenon called, well, not sure if it's the right term, but it's called libration. It's depending on the time you're imaging and where you are located and all that, the moon is not exactly the same. So I believe at any point in time, 41% of the moon is visible, and you have like a 19% that is variable, depending on the moon phases and the time of the month and year. So you actually, and there's another 41% that we can never see. So it actually varies. So it kind of rotates a little bit towards the edges. So when you try to put the two images together, it's a bit tricky. So you have to do a bit of Photoshop magic to make them fit together. Um, so I'm gonna show you how to stack um, these images, but first I wanted to show you an example of what libration actually is. So I took this video from Wikipedia. There's a good article on that there, so I really suggest you read it if you're interested in that. They'll explain it way better than I do. So let's go see that video. So that was the in 2019 the phases what you see on the moon for each month basically, and you see it rotate. So when you take the image of the full moon, it's actually a bit bigger in this case, and then it's going to look smaller a little bit. So when you merge them together, it's a bit of a challenge, but it's fun. All right, so I think you get the point here. So let's go to desktop mode. 1 second, just going to move that. All right, so the software that I use to stack is called Registax 6. There's also Stacker 3 that also does it, but I like the wavelet feature in this. So before you start, I'd suggest to go in the settings. You'll see automatic processing. Here it's set to align to wavelet. Just uncheck that because you want to see every step of the way at first, what's going on. And sometimes between steps, it's an old software, so it can crash. So um, and so what you want to do is open an image, or so you can open a sequence of JPEGs, TIFF file. You want to have as less compression as possible. So ideally, you would take pictures in RAW from your camera and then convert them as TIFFs and run that through that software. Or you can go straight with the JPEGs, but you'll lose some quality right from the start. In this case, I used a software called Backyard EOS, which allows me to control the DSLR completely from a laptop. And it basically was like a webcam. So I took a bunch of videos, stitched them together. So I'm just going to show you with one video what it does. All right. So here's the first frame of the video. That's a 500 frame video. So you can go through the frames like that. You'll see it moves at wall like because of the atmospheric turbulence. So some frames are not good in there. So you can actually set the amount of frames you want to keep. So in this case, let's say we would say 250 out of the 500. The first thing you want to do is set the alignment points. You can increase the number if you feel like the stack was not good the first time. So I'll just set it again. And then you would click on align. It takes a little while to do, and since I'm streaming at the same time, what I'm gonna do is just I prepared one that's already aligned. Uh, it's right here. So I'm just gonna save some memory, close this one, and open this one. So now all my stacks are aligned. My images are aligned, and I want to limit now to let's say 250 out of the 500. So just click on limit. That's done, and then stack the image. So it's gonna take the best 250 that it found, and we'll stack them. All right, so that's done. You can save your image as, let's say, output. And now that's the fun part. The first time you play with that, the first time I played with that, I was super like impressed with the details I could get out of it. So you go and increase these little wavelets here. So you won't notice it a lot at first because the processing area is not that big, especially on the large image. This image is not that large, but you can check that checkbox and you'll see where it's processing. So it's a good idea to put it like where you have lots of creators and less so you can see the impact of both. So again, if I unselect, that's the raw image, like the clean image, the clean stack, and then you can start playing around with these sliders and you see all the texture come out, the details come out. Once you're happy with the way it looks, you click on do all there you go. You have a nice clean image. That there's a bit too much there, but it's a part where you just need to play with the sliders and find the right balance. Because if you push it way too far, you'll see it really looks not natural at all. So once you're happy with your image, you save it. Sorry, I'm just gonna do the do all. Once you're happy, you just save the image as a TIFF. I think by default it's gonna say BMP mode the first time you use it. Save it as a TIFF, and then let's go like that. And then after that, you can bring it in Photoshop. So I have a version ready here that I prepared before. I'm not gonna go through all of the details. I'm gonna do another later video later on about that. Um, but in the end, you can. So I isolated the moon from the background, so it's easier to play after that with the vibrance, the color balance to fix that a little bit, change the brightness, play with the saturation and hue, and you really start to see the mineral moon details that come out of it. So here you go. So you have a nice moon with way more details and more color. And if you want to bring that the step after that, that file here I created an HDR version. So that's the full moon, and here I'm just gonna show you the layers. When I merge them together, and that's the final result here. So there you go. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me a message. You can follow me on Facebook or Twitch, and you'll see all my links at the end of that video. I'm also working on a website right now. It's still in alpha version, but in the end, I hope to put a bunch of tutorials. I don't think I'm gonna do a bunch of tutorials myself because there's already a lot that exist that are really good. So my goal is to actually take a lot of these videos, tag them, and make a good search engine to find videos based on specific criteria. So let's say I want to image the moon with a DSLR with this type of lens. Show me the closest tutorial we can find around that. So there you go. So I hope you enjoyed and see you next time.